Let's get this meeting started. Thank you for coming out, and whoever is participating online. My name is Chenyu Alex Liu. I'm the Deputy Superintendent overseeing the finance and the budgeting area. Appreciate your time, and hopefully we can have some meaningful conversation about our next year's budget for fiscal year 26-27. This is our first town hall meeting. We're going to have several more. For this one, we're going to focus on budget survey. So as you may already know, for the last 3 years, we are doing something unique here in Las Cruces Public Schools. Our budget process is a year-round process, which is the first one in the state of New Mexico, and it's a bottom-up process. So we rely heavily on our community to tell us where's the budget priorities are. So we rely heavily on our 40 budget development committees, which formed by parents, teachers, staff members, stakeholders, and most importantly, our students to participate in our budget development process. And also, we rely heavily on our budget survey, and so that the community and stakeholder can tell us where the budget priorities are. So your voice will drive next year's budget priorities. So take 5 minutes and tell us what to do. So because we are a strong believer of community input build strong school district, we believe that the answer is within this community. So please tell us. We have key trains which we're going to send it to the city and counties and other community organizations. We have posters in every schools and in central office. All you need to do is take a picture of the QR codes, and you can go directly to the survey. Also, we have advertisement from the students and teachers advocating for our budget survey. You're gonna be on social media, also on the big screen of when you're watching the football games in the Field of Dreams, in HBO, Hulu, Disney Plus. So take your time to tell us where you matters to you the most, and then we'll develop a budget based on your priority. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Matt to talk about detail about this survey.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Saenz. I'm the Budget Director with Las Cruces Public Schools. It's a pleasure to be here today. So I want to welcome everyone to our first Budget Town Hall meeting for fiscal year 2027. This is our first series in a series of 3. So I know everyone's pretty hungry, so we'll look at the agenda today. So for our budget process, I'll be discussing that. I'll turn it over to Dr. Jules Barbati, our facilitator, to discuss the budget survey. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So for our budget process, our goal is to provide maximum transparency, collaboration, and accountability towards student success. So over the past several years, we've been able to increase our community outreach by providing several town hall meetings. We're also, as Mr. Alex mentioned, we're also participating, taking our hand at acting and being part of our commercials to promote our budget survey and budget events. Also, we're providing community engagement through our budget survey committee. Also, the committee has the opportunity to provide their input through the budget survey. Also, we're providing resources for our community. If you want to visit lcpsfinance.net, we have a toolbox there for you, and you can access the budget survey. You can also access our budget books. And we also have dashboards, which are really cool. You can look at our expenditures as we go along the years. So the district mission is for Las Cruces Public Schools to provide a safe, caring, equitable, and student-centered learning environment that cultivates civic and community engagement, promotes excellence, and honors diversity. So we want to use this as our building block for building our budget. So updates to our budget process for the year, we are continuing with our year-round budget process. As Mr. Liu stated, we are allowing the school sites and departments the autonomy to develop their budgets and working with their stakeholder groups. This year we did increase communication. We went out to several board meetings. So I want to thank those organizations for allowing us the time to promote our budget survey and budget events for the year. So a huge thank you goes out to Las Cruces Realtors Association, the Equity Council, the bilingual program classes, the City of Las Cruces. Also want to thank the mayor for mistaking me for Mario Lopez, the actor, which I appreciate, but I'll have to work on my hair a little bit. But it was great to see all of my friends at the City of Las Cruces and allowing us to promote our events there. Also, the Doñana County Board of Commissioners, we attended their board meeting last Tuesday, so we were very excited about that. In addition, as I mentioned, we have the budget book available on lcpsfinance.net. Please feel free to peruse that. That's our first ever budget book, and we're very excited about that. Also, we're very excited with our new promotion with NMCO. We have some really cool videos coming out to promote our budget events. We had several students. We have one student from elementary, one student from middle school. We have 2 high school students, and then we also have a speech-language pathologist from Columbia Elementary. So I was really impressed with the students and their ability to do public speaking, because I know even standing up here, it can be a little nerve-wracking, you know. So kudos to them. They did an amazing job. So there's some great work going on at LCPS. And as Mr. Liu mentioned, these videos will be available for viewing on our social media sites, as well as through the Disney, Hulu, ESPN streaming package. So they're going to be famous. Our school site development, budget development for our school sites and departments. We have 40 school sites and also 25 departments. We're asking them to incorporate the input from their stakeholder group, which includes parents, certified staff, and classified staff. For the departments, they'll be incorporating input from their certified staff and classified staff. We're also providing for community input through our survey. And then last but not least, we like to incorporate input from our district's representation. That's your board members. So our budget process starts off really early in the year. We're here already thinking about what we're going to propose for our budget in next year. We start off with our community engagement with the development and selection of the budget survey committee and budget survey. In October, we present that to the finance subcommittee. We also attended several community events to promote the events for the year. And we're also at this time working on professional development for our staff for developing the budget at the school sites and departments. In November, we have our first town hall meeting. Just to let you know that the budget survey was released on November 1st. So if you haven't taken it, please let us know what your opinion is. We'd love to hear it. In December, we're working on developing our budget for personnel, operating, and capital. The budget development is for our school sites and departments. In January, our legislative session begins. This is really important because this is where all the important decisions get made as to how much funding is allocated to the public schools. At this time, the Budget Survey Committee will reconvene to analyze the qualitative questions. In February, the school sites and departments will submit their budget to finance for review, and we'll work with the superintendent on any recommendations. And we'll also present this information to the finance subcommittee. So in March, we'll have our second town hall meeting. We hope you join us at that time. We'll be discussing the budget survey results. We'll also provide some financial information at several of our council and advisory boards. In April, the legislative session will have concluded, and the Public Education Department will issue what's called a unit value. So that will tell us how much money we have to work with for the upcoming fiscal year. In May, we'll come back for our final town hall meeting to provide some updates and highlights for our proposed budget. We'll also present this information and provide a final comment period for to the finance subcommittee. And then also, we look forward to bringing this forward for adoption at the end of May. In June, we'll submit our budget to the New Mexico Public Education Department and basically align our budget with their requirements. So this is more of a back-end function. July will start our new fiscal year, and we'll start the process all over. So we'll begin with budget control functions, monitoring budgets, and then we'll also start working on our budget book for the next fiscal year. In August, we'll look to submit that, compile and submit that to the Government Finance Officers Association, as well as start the budget process for the new year. So we'll be back planning for all our budget town hall events and budget survey. So now let's take a look at the budget survey. So our goal is to gather input from the community. What this does is basically help us determine what our funding priorities are for the year. It hopes that we align our budget with the community goals, as well as identify inequities where we can make improvements for the next fiscal year, because we want to provide as many opportunities as possible for these kids to succeed. So updates to the budget survey, we did task Dr. Barbati with streamlining the survey, and I know we had asked to maybe shorten the survey so that it can be taken in a reasonable amount of time. However, we did have a really passionate group of committee members who felt that the data was really important to gather, and so there were no reductions in change per se. Well, I'll actually let Dr. Barbati discuss that here in a minute, but you know, going through the survey myself, I felt like it was pretty easy and flowed pretty well. So I encourage you to give it a try. We're also looking to boost parent and staff participation. So over the last year, we had a great boost in student participation. However, we like to bring up our parent and staff levels. We're also maintaining the use of the Thought Exchange software platform. It was a really great experience. We've been able to use that to compile our budget survey, as well as collect data and provide some AI analysis along with that. We're also looking to deepen the community engagement, right? This is the opportunity for the community to get involved in the public schools budget. So just as a reminder, our community priorities over the last several years have been safety, which we've been able to make significant improvements to, which include weapons detection system installations across the district. We also had camera upgrades as well as parking lot improvements to several schools. We also had facilities which recently dropped off the top 3 list, but just to remind everyone, we did have the recent opening of Columbia Elementary, as well as additions to multi-purpose rooms and classroom wings to several of our schools. We're also providing additional budget for instructional resources, and that's for things like tutoring programs, materials, supplies, and student equipment. And new to this year is health and wellness. So this is a look at our budget survey participation. You can see in 2024, we had under 2,000 participants, and we did have a dip in 2025, and then we had over 2,000 respondents last year, so we're very excited about that. You can see the gray area there is contributed to students. So that's what we're talking about. We like to bring up the parents and staff levels as well. So it was great to hear from the student community who hasn't been represented in the past. And looking at the numbers now, we're over 2,000 responses for this year, so that's great. So our budget survey is comprised of 20 members. We have our facilitator, Dr. Barbati. We also have 19 volunteers from the parents, certified staff, and classified staff stakeholder groups. So if you're interested in participating in our budget survey, this is what you can expect. So in August, we send out some advertisement for volunteers to be part of the budget survey committee. The committee was selected on LCPS TV. It was a series of 3 meetings to complete the survey, and then we presented that to the finance subcommittee for recommendations. So the budget survey is live now, so please go ahead and take it. The survey runs from November 1st through December 22nd, so you still have time. So with that, I want to thank you all for your time. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Barbati. Thank you.
Hope everyone is doing well. Thanks for being here. I'm Dr. Barbati, Dr. Jules Barbati, and I'm very excited to talk about two distinct things with you over the next few minutes. So what we're going to be covering together are differences between quantitative and qualitative questions, and those are the two types of questions that are going to show up on this year's budget survey. And those are also the two types of questions that showed up last year and the year before that as well. And then I'm also going to cover the specific changes that were made to the survey questions for this year's budget survey, fiscal year 2027. So let's get started. First, we're going to talk about the question methodology. So quantitative questions. Quantitative questions help represent opinions and the perceived importance of different budget items with amounts, frequencies, values, or intensity. So another way to think about quantitative questions is numbers. We also have qualitative questions on the survey, and what qualitative questions help us do is observe communication and opinion in its own voice. So those are types of questions where people can type in exactly what they want to say without being limited by numbers. There are benefits to both types of methodologies and both types of questions. So some benefits to quantitative questions. We are able to ask questions that the budget committee identified ahead of time. So these questions are grounded in community importance. And we also can more easily observe trends in what is perceived as important to the LCPS community on the back end when the results start rolling in. We're also more easily able to quantify opinions and compare their frequency on a large scale. So then on the other hand, qualitative questions also have their own benefits. This gives us an opportunity to see other topics and categories that could be shared outside of the quantitative questions that we write ahead of time. And as a data scientist, I get very, very excited about this part. We're able to see what questions that we can add quantitatively in the next year's survey from the qualitative data. And I'll show you an example of that in a few minutes. But also, there's a lot more room for detail in these types of responses that can be elaborated on. And we like that rich nuance of data from our community members. So now, I want to show you some examples of what these questions could look like in practice when you're taking the survey. So an example of a quantitative question is just this. You're going to be given a set of directions, and you're going to be asked to rank perceived importance of different items on a set scale, on a scale from 1 to 5, from not important to extremely important. And then for a qualitative question, this is CS4, which is the second question underneath there, where users are asked to write their additional thoughts on campus safety, for example. And they're able to write all the thoughts that they want without being limited. Well, I think there's a character limit, right? But it's quite large. So then for the analysis of these types of questions, for the quantitative portion, the thought exchange software is going to help us create visualizations of the frequency of each answer choice. And that way we can more easily compare frequencies across questions, which can help us gauge the perceived importance of these different topics. Now for the qualitative questions, the facilitator, which is me, is going to identify themes and topics in all of the text data. So that means I'm going to look at every single entry that people write in these qualitative questions. I'm going to read them and thematically analyze them into themes and topics, which is a very fancy way of saying I'm going to take these individual lines of data and categorize them into larger categories that are in common. And then I'm going to count those frequencies of each theme or topic. And the idea is that the higher frequency, or the higher the frequency of a theme or topic, the more important that it is to our users, to our LCPS community. So that is the really fun methodological stuff. And now let's get into the really fun changes that we made for this year to encourage participation. So as Mr. Saenz mentioned, one of the goals that was tasked to myself and the budget committee was to shorten the survey. And The good news is that the Budget Committee identified 5 questions to delete based on they were perceptually not important to the budget survey process moving forward. But there is a caveat. We did also add 12 additional items. And so as Mr. Saenz mentioned, we had a very passionate group of community members who had really fantastic ideas for how to get at more participation and items that are more important to our key stakeholder groups, our teachers and our staff, and our parents. So, at the committee's request, we added these 12 additional items that will hopefully help encourage participation among those other stakeholder groups. So just to give you an example here, on the left-hand side, you see a question from last year's budget survey. On the right-hand side, you see that same set of questions for this year. And the changes that we made to this year are in red font. So something that I want to highlight for you is that we had 2 additional questions added based on community member feedback because they are perceptually important to our key stakeholder groups. One is asking about different types of security presence, and the other is adding a question about the weapon detection system or the Evolve, which is one of the items that we added based on the qualitative data from last year. Pretty cool, right? And then also, just as another example, we took 2 questions that were already there and we were able to expand it to get at a richer nuance or detail of data. So we're asking about the perceived importance of unarmed security presence, armed security presence with non-lethal weapons, as well as the perceived importance of armed LCPD officers. All right, other changes that we made to make the survey more user-friendly. For this year, we modified the formatting of our short answer questions. And the idea is that if a user encounters a short answer question that they don't perceive as relevant to themselves, then they're able to kind of opt out. They can skip over that question and move directly into the next quantitative question. Something that we really like about qualitative questions is that it allows us to get in that really rich nuance. But a potential downside is that it can be more taxing for users to think about what they would want to type. So this way, users can skip over those questions if they don't have any additional thoughts to add. So again, just to show you an example, on the right-hand side, that's what those short answer questions are going to look like for this year. If a user says that they do not have any additional thoughts to add on the topic of campus safety, for example, then they will skip over CS4 altogether. But if they do, they'll go in and they'll write all that they want. Another change that we made was that we included the hyperlink for LCPS's data dashboards that Mr. Saenz mentioned, because, as was mentioned earlier, one of the main reasons for this whole process is to make the budget process more transparent for our community members. And so one of our committee members had a really fantastic idea of adding this hyperlink right up front so that community members can click it and go and see exactly where the money comes from, where it goes, how it's allocated, and it helps answer the question, how does this survey feed into the budget process? We also altered several question directions to try to make them shorter, more direct, more streamlined. And I'm going to pull up that exact same example that I showed you last time, because in addition to breaking up this question into 2 so that users can opt out, we also deleted a large portion of those directions, but it's still very clear and direct what we would like the users to answer. Another change that we made was we changed the question choices of the quantitative questions. So on the right-hand side here, you see on the very top row where it says not important, slightly important, etc. In the red font, we changed the language of the final 3 choices. And we did that at the committee's request to try to differentiate between those answer choices more, to try to reduce confusion between what is really the difference between important and very important. And that's just showing you exactly those changes there. And then finally, we did just a larger overhaul of language to help with accessibility and comprehension. So those are just a few of the changes that we made. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Saenz to take us home.
Thank you, Jules. Appreciate that. So next steps for our budget process is we like to invite everyone out to our next budget town hall meeting on March 5th. We'll be discussing the budget survey results. Also, where you can find the survey. So there's several flyers distributed throughout the district at school sites and through various departments. You can also find this on our website as well as social media. This will be sent out to our parents on Parent View. And then also, I know Ms. Jameson will be promoting this on radio as well. And here is the QR code. If you want to scan that, please let us know what's important to you and in developing the budget for next fiscal year. Also want to thank the communications department for putting this on. I know Colin does a great job of making us look good here. So thank you very much, Colin. Also want to thank the finance staff for being awesome and amazing and joining us here today. And then also thank the Board of Education. And yeah, please join us on March 5th again for our next budget town hall. Thank you very much.